Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: older generations of Reddit. What toys did you have as a child that would be considered too dangerous to be given to a child today? Not a toy, but playgrounds were plunked down onto asphalt and concrete, with metal slides that caused third-degree burns on hot summer days. I remember those. Some older public playgrounds still had those as late as the early 80s. My city got rid of all wooden playgrounds, metal slides, and tire swings around 1900 and IE5 to IE6, except they replaced them all with generic boring equipment made of metal and plastic. Some parks had kick-ass equipment before that. A chemistry set. My brother and I were totally unsupervised and never followed the instructions. We just mixed chemicals together at random to see what would happen. I remember one combination turned into this really smelly black foam-like substance. My dad and his brothers didn't have a chemistry set, but their father did let them play with mercury in his workshop. They also taught themselves to make zip guns, I think they were called. Basically, guns crafted from parts like car antennas. As a kid in the 60s, my uncle looked up gunpowder in the family encyclopedia and headed off to the pharmacy with his pocket money. He could barely reach up to the counter, but they were happy to sell him a pound of each ingredient. He now has a PhD in chemistry, and most of his peers have similar stories. I also have a PhD in chemistry. I used to make bombs in the woods for fun back in high school. I have a crayon melter that melts crayons and lets you pour it into mods so you could make your own crayons and rings. Turns out production stopped because of a failure to stop the heater from being turned on if the lid was opened. Those were so much fun we would pretend we were blacksmiths when taking them out of the mods. Waxsmiths. I had the, potentially, even more dangerous version, a mini metal melter to make jewelry, in the late 80s early 2000s. Technically, it had a safety latch and wouldn't switch on unless the plastic lid was closed over the smelter. Or a curious preteen penguin decides to jam a pen into it and disable the mechanism. Lots of unsafe fun was had. Oh, I had one of those. In hindsight, why were those made for kids? We had these weird fake cigarettes that actually allowed you to blow smoke that was quite realistic. We freaked out a lot of adults with them. There were these fake cigarettes that were white sugar with one end that was glowing red that were sold in a packet of 10, each was wrapped in a round cigarette paper. I think Fanny Farmer Candies sold them. They have candy cigars too that are gum that are labeled like you were having a boy or girl, like the tradition of smoking a cigar when you have a kid. I had an incredibly heavy metal square-looking robot that spit smoke it produced from burning oil. It smelled noxious and was heavy enough it could have easily been a murder weapon. The 80s version was Magic Mike too. Took a few tries to search for it because you mostly get shirtless guys when just typing in Magic Mike. Guessing Magic Mike toys wouldn't work either. I had one of those too. So cool, I can still remember how it smelled. Deleted. Humans, how did we pollute the world so much? Also humans, makes a toy that burns oil for fun. Lawn darts. When the game was over, we used to throw them in the air and then run for our lives. I have no idea how I survived the Soviets. Did that in the 80s too. My parents were cleaning out their garage a few months ago and found the lawn darts my mom had when she was a kid. If you thought they were dangerous originally, just imagine rusted out lawn darts from the 60s. A healthy fear of tetanus will make you safer. This robot chicken clip has real toys that were all recalled. Most were because they were dangerous. The island of recalled toys. I actually owned one of those sky dancers. I didn't know they were recalled for being dangerous. I also was not expecting to find a toy from my childhood in this thread. I'm getting old. Sky dancers were recalled because they are spinning blades that fly in an unpredictable manner. That was hilarious. Thank you so much for that gem. I never owned one, but you could buy a radioactive science kit that came with real radioactive material and a Geiger counter. My father had one of those. We were just talking about it and that's actually why I asked this question. Haha, they were popular in the 50s. Up's third arm starts scrolling. According to a January 2020 article in the IEEE, the risk from the uranium-238 in Gilbert's U-238 atomic energy lab was minimal, about the equivalent to a day's UV exposure from the sun. And the kit had the beneficial effect of teaching that radioactivity is a naturally occurring phenomena. You can still buy a little tin of uranium on Amazon, although it's not marketed to children. Edit, I will say, I'm not a huge fan of the phrase the equivalent to a day's UV exposure from the sun. First, you can get a hell of a sunburn in one day. I don't think anybody who's had a really bad fell asleep on the beach sunburn would describe the damage as minimal. Also, it seems a bit simplistic to compare the alpha, beta, and radiation from uranium to UVA and UVB from the sun. Don't think anybody who's had a really bad fell asleep on the beach sunburn would describe the damage as minimal. As a 13-year-old, a friend and I went to the beach on a hot day and fell asleep for a couple of hours. We were out in the sun for about 4 hours all up. We're both white, but he has olive complexion and I am pale, but not alabaster pale. His sunburn was a bit itchy. I looked like a lobster and spent the next couple of days lying on my front. I do not recommend sleeping on the beach. Creepy crawlers. It was the safer, IoT's version, but you could still burn yourself on those metal mods. I still have a scar on my forearm from one of those. Even then I remember my brain telling me those types of toys are dumb. You buy it and what you make a few squishy things that collect dirt and get lost before you run out of stuff to make more. But oh god did I love playing with one when I got it lol. Dude you bought it because of the dope commercial like all other cool IoT's toys unless it had a show you watched. Creepy crawlers. I still use a couple to this day as fishing lures. I had a large red plastic toy box that looked like a treasure chest in my bedroom closet growing up. When I was around 7, late at night the toy box would start taking to me from the closet, calling my name, Michael, in a low, creaky voice. For weeks, I was terrified to fall asleep because I knew I'd wake up to the voice again, yet every morning when the sun filled my room I'd open the lid to the box and it would just be toys, like it should be. Finally, I was able to convince my mom that I wasn't making it up, and got her to sleep in my room that night with me, and shortly thereafter she woke me up with Michael wake up, I hear it. Long story short, we discovered it was my talking kitt. With very low batteries, talking away in slow motion by itself. I don't know if those should be illegal, but I definitely feel like the experience damaged me. I had a similar experience with a Furby. Its batteries had corroded, so I threw them away and put it in my closet. Suddenly at 1 a.m., I hear ha-ha. I see you. Ha-ha. Oh god the pure terror of hearing that from the voice of an innocent kid's toy and thinking it's some psycho in your closet at 1 a.m. I know if I have kids I will make sure to properly dispose of any that require batteries lol. Props to your mom for actually listening to you though. Even if it took a while to convince her I know a lot of parents that wouldn't have. If anyone has said it yet but the old Beyblades. The ones with the sharp metal on them and would slice up your hands when you tried to pick it up while it was still spinning lol. My cousin once sent one into a wall because it flew off his kitchen table. Edit, tie for the upvotes guys, gals and NB pals and also tie for the award. We had these banned from school because a kid got his eye torn out by one. I think certain models of Beyblades were actually banned in my country, or at least they were talked about being banned. Damn I hope that kid was okay after that's insanely traumatic and fucked up. I'm surprised trampolines are still around, even with the dumb safety cage netting they must all have now. Yeah, I was gonna say trampoline without a net or padding on the edges. So either you flew off the thing and got a concussion or you got your leg maimed when it got stuck between the springs. Bounce me. Especially when you add in kids trying to do flips or my personal childhood nightmare, crack the egg. For the uneducated, one kid curls in a ball and the others bounce around them trying to get them to unfurl. For kids with long legs like me, it was common to accidentally slam your chin down on your knees. I bit through my tongue at least 2 or 3 times per summer playing this. Crack the egg, man I'd totally forgotten about that. We used to play so many trampoline games. I always liked that we had a net on ours because it meant you could be more reckless. Roll around with your eyes closed or shove someone aside. The net will catch you hopefully. My favorite was jackpot. Someone would stand outside the trampoline and throw in any sort of balls we had lying around and call out a number, bonus, or hazard. And you'd get points if you were the ones to catch it. Lots of pushing, shoving, and tackling involved. On playgrounds, there's always the spinning gate. It was a gate on a pole. You stood on the back of it and kick off like a skateboard and just spin around on it. Think a merry-go-round, but smaller and crazier. We had something like this on my IoT's school playground. It wasn't a spinning gate, but basically just a small, single-person merry-go-round with a tall pole up the middle to hang on to. Because they were so tiny you could get some absolute G-force going with another kid's help. We used to challenge each other to spin on them and then run up the slide. Multiple broken bones were had. Skydaces were banned IRC. Beyblades were banned from school. Both had the habit of spinning into children's eyes and blinding them. I freaking loved Skydaces.